Hello and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. I guess that's good enough.
Welcome to OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This podcast is designed to help with your recovery from any mental issue you are up against. The show strives to give you information that really, for real, works.
OTR is a safe place where you can go to hear how real people recover from all kinds of mental issues.
And finally, the most important function of the show is to lessen the stigma of mental illness and allow people to talk about their issues. To show that mental illness is nothing to be ashamed and embarrassed about.
Each episode interviews experts like doctors, counselors, and life artists who give helpful tips on living a happier life. But most importantly, Bob interviews ordinary people who have suffered with a mental health issue, some on the brink of or attempted to take their own lives. Each one has recovered to lead a much happier life. Most of the guests have books or websites with more info that you can use for recovery. You can do it too. Bob's notes on today's show follows.
Welcome to the official 100th episode of OTR Achieving Mental Health for Real, based on Apple's count of the episodes. Other sites like Podchaser have me a little higher since some of the shows I removed didn't get removed from all sites. By now you probably know that I had issues with my vocal cord. I hope to be back interviewing by September, and I am glad to be back with segments of the first 5 years of the show, starting with Real Part 1. It covers the first year of OTR. But I have to use a voiceover since I am not yet fully healed. So, forgive the audio, especially if you listen to headphones. The sound will get progressively better. So here is my intro and the best of the two shows that introed the format and purpose of the podcast. Please understand the next couple of clips were made when I was first starting out. They're not that dynamic, but the first full show came out much improved. And gets better and better throughout the year.
The first couple of episodes will be introducing you to different topics of mental health. Brain gets depressed. It's influenced by inheritance of upbringing. And all I'm trying to do on this show is give you information. Suicide breaks the heart of your loved ones, and it gives them pain for the rest of their lives. So I think it's very, very important that you have this information so something will work for you. I've gone through all sorts of things in 50 years, and I hope this information helps, and I hope people keep listening. Why do we call this Over the Rainbow? I think it's a destination that people, I know Dorothy wanted to go over the rainbow, but the funny part of it is when she got there, she wanted to go home. She realized home is where you need to go, and I want to emphasize that everyone needs to go home. What is home? Home is safe, warm, secure, maybe sharing a love with another person. It's where you go, and your dog greets you, and you know you're home.
The first real episode was Garage Talk Talks with Mike Sheenan, whose show ended in the year of the COVID.
Hello, and welcome to Over the Rainbow. It's Bob A again, and we have a very special treat for you today. A fellow podcaster, he started about the same time I did. His podcast is called Garage Talk PC. And the host of that show is who we're going to talk to next. His name is Mike Sheehan. I wanted to talk about your panic attacks. You said that you have it and maybe your kids also have it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I had one panic attack where I was up all night and I kept drinking all night. And this is before I started medicating. And again, we'll get to the medication that I had taken in a second. And I was up all night long, and I didn't know who to call. And I called a friend, and they just came over and walked in, and my friend's wife just like sat with me. One time I was in the car, we were driving down the road. I looked in the rearview mirror, and my daughter was in the backseat bawling, crying. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she just said, "Panic attacks." And I just pulled over. I got out of the car, ran around, pulled her out of the car, and I just held her for about 15 minutes. There's nothing I can do.
Does that help? I mean, yeah.
She knows I'm there, and that was my thing. I'm not going to tell you everything's going to be okay, because I know that doesn't work. It makes it worse, but I can hold you, and that's my thing. I just held her, and 15 minutes later, she started to calm down. We got in the car, and we finished on our way home, What people don't realize is that there's no cause to it. It just happens. There's no reason that you can get rid of. And people who don't have anxiety don't understand it. People who don't, and I don't have depression, but having anxiety and panic attacks, I understand how real depression is to the person who's feeling depression. I get that. And sometimes it's just a matter of just sitting and being,
Yeah.
And so now we'll get some medication. So I've never taken, Xanax or anything like that. I've never wanted to. I take CBD, and CBD works for me. And so I take oil. I take it in the morning, and then I take it again in the afternoon when I get home from work. And I haven't had panic attacks.
Later, I talk about the reason behind the podcast.
Yeah, mine is trying to talk about mental illness and raise awareness and trying to erase the stigma that's out there, which is, that's why I'm Robert A., because I don't want my friends to know about this. I don't even tell them, because you know how people are.
Well, see, I think the stigma exists more in those of us who are older than it does in the younger generation.
You might be right.
So the younger generation that listens to the podcast, I think a lot of them can relate. Okay. I really do.
Because my son said I should, come out all the way. I'm coming out, but I'm afraid to come out, in front of my friends, and they're gonna judge me.
Let's be honest, though. Those who are real friends will still be friends.
Yeah, but then will they treat you differently? That's what I'm afraid about.
Well, and if they do, they're not real friends.
And, just to get the message out that, people do have problems. They have anxiety problems. They have depression problems.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah, and I think we forget that we're supposed to have challenges. Life's not supposed to be easy. I don't know if you saw League of Your Own when she said it's just too hard. And he said, that's what you like about it. It's hard. So, that's the kind of stuff.
Challenges are how we succeed.
Yeah.
And debunking myths about mental health issues.
There's just these, because people don't know that oh, you're crazy, they'll say. But they don't know what mental illness is. It's not you're crazy.
Right.
There are some people that they can't bring back, their 12 personalities or something happened to them, but most people can recover.
Then I talk about my ADHD.
I do have is I drive people crazy because of my ADD, because they'll say something and then I'll say something and I'll be like, wait a minute. When did you say that? And it'll get all confusing. and they think I'm not paying attention and that I don't respect them and that I'm rude, I'm not obnoxious. But that's not what I really mean, It's just that that's the way I am. I have certain skill set, or let's say I'm missing a certain skill set where I'm not really able to find the point where I'm supposed to talk. It's hard for me to distinguish when someone is finished with their thought and then I can talk. So,
that's totally fine.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
you make stupid mistakes. Why do you do that? You're a smart person. What's going on? And I try to explain it to them, but they don't get it. And I have dyslexia, and that is really horrible.
If I may say, those people can kiss your ass.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my view on the world and on life. And if somebody's got a problem, they can take it up with me. And it better be a real problem, because if it's not, then they're the problem. That's
with dyslexia, it's hard because it's hard to read, and it's especially hard to write. And I write documents. I write good documents, but I have to proofread it like 6 times. So I'm working 6 times harder than the average guy to get my document right, and it's frustrating. And
nobody understands that.
Yeah, and I'm a super focus. Because of my ADD, I have super focus, and I'll do something for 2 hours, burn myself out, and then I'll just have to hang out for a while. And at work, they're like, "Why aren't you working? Why aren't you heads down working and keying?" And I'll just tell them, "Look, this is the way I am. I super focus. I get a lot of work done, and then I have to take a break." And that's hard for people to understand.
And then we go back to talking about coming out to friends about your mental issues.
I'm just ashamed. I think I'm still ashamed.
I know, but
I haven't gotten over it.
Real friends no matter what, and that's that.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
I think it's really the risk of losing a friend. I just feel I think it's different. Ashamed. And
That's what it is. That's what it is. I was just going to say that. I don't think it has to do with your friends. It has to do with you, and you're embarrassed. Not ashamed. You're embarrassed.
Embarrassed. That's a better word. Yeah.
Well, stop being embarrassed, because you'd be amazed at how many of your friends will tell you, "Oh my God, you know what? I had that same shit happen to me."
Then we talk about the rapper known as NF Nathan Forstein, who was the person who inspired me to start the podcast through his mental health transparency.
There's an artist called NF. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't.
He does all mental illness songs. He's a rapper. Now, a lot of people don't like rap, but he's spot on. Everything he says is exactly true. You should listen to him once.
Wait, who is it?
NF. His real name is Nathan Fernstein, I think.
Oh, NF. I know NF. He's on my running list. Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. I want to marry him.
He's a Christian, but he doesn't want to be identified as a quote Christian rapper, which is really cool. I mean, his raps are really deep. He is really, really deep.
And it all leads to a conclusion.
Sometimes we need somebody in the flesh to tell us, "Hey, it's okay." And Bob, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that right now, from one man to another.
I appreciate it.
You are good. You are not alone in this stuff. And nobody listening is alone if you're having the same kind of problem.
I'm thinking of Saturday Night Live. Did you ever hear that? A guy that used to look in a mirror and he goes, "I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and damn it, people like me."
yeah, I have heard that, yeah. Seriously. That was in a movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, he made a movie. Stuart Saves His Family was the name of the movie. It was hilarious, I thought. Yeah, it was great.
Once you find out that you have friends that are like, "Hey, it's okay," a lot of it goes away. So my advice to anybody listening, and my advice to you personally, Bob, is, because I've lived that, share it. Share it with your friends.
All right.
Your friends.
I got to get the courage up.
I know. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a whole lot of courage, and that's like the biggest part.
The next interview that was aired was with Brett Stevens talking about his amazing crossover book. Well, this was a big break for me as Brett had a great Facebook following, and combined with the following interview, put me in the top 50 in the England and Japan charts. Here is part of that first interview before I read the book Crossover.
I'm pretty anxious to hear more about your new book, Crossover. What's it about?
It's a personal memoir about my experiences with bipolar disorder, and it walks the reader through what it's like to go through a manic episode. It starts, in a very kind of dramatic way with a public episode that I had that led me to hospitalization. And then it shows really the development. And as I grew up as a child with brothers in a suburban neighborhood. So the simple definition, from what I understand, is it's someone who has multiple manic episodes and I guess experiences those drastic changes in mood. And bipolar 1 is higher ups and downs, whereas bipolar 2 is more of the depression. And I think they get what's called hypomanic, but they don't reach the manic phase where, they're walking on water and thinking these thoughts that are just completely delusional. So that's my experience and what I've been taught. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I didn't know anything about bipolar until I was diagnosed. So that's what I've learned over the last couple of years in this period of recovery. And, really, and I'm in a good place right now. So that's what I've learned over that time. And I did something very dangerous. I was anxious and I was driving on a highway and picking my brother up at the airport. And I missed the exit and I just turned over the barrier in the middle of the highway because I was just so anxious that I needed to pick him up on time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, he spent some time with me in college over that weekend and I wasn't sleeping and he ultimately reported back to my parents that, something was off. So they took me home and, basically we're driving to the psych ward and I'm excited. I think I'm going to some special facility.
If you have an attack like I did, or if there's something going on, I mean, did you know enough to go to the hospital?
Well, I just learned in mental health first aid, like some of the signs and symptoms. And, if you're having a conversation with someone and you can kind of urge them to go, that's one thing. But I'll be honest, my personal experience was, the first one was my parents took me to the hospital where I thought I was going to become, a scientist's dream, where they were going to study things that I was doing. My second episode, I was dragged into the hospital by 4 police officers and I was sedated and beat up and then put in the hospital. And the third episode, I was basically yelling at a whole pizza place that they needed to be quiet. And I was taken in that way by cops. So mine had been so dramatic. And like my thoughts on hospitals is the scariest place in the world. And when I'm in there, I have I am trying to escape. I think it's a conspiracy. Everything is about, my illness. But when I get out of the hospital and I get away from it a little bit, that's the only place that I could be. There's nowhere else for me to go and get better than those places. So they're scary. I mean, I was in a straitjacket. My roommate was, they try to hang themselves. I've met so many people that have tried to commit suicide in those hospitals. Like it's very traumatic to even think about it, but that's where you need to be, to get better. And in terms of like voluntary, people just kind of going in because they're not feeling right. I don't know. I think that's more for like the medical professionals or, close family and friends that have a better sense of what's going on with the individual. And you also have to live the rest of your life. So I think the advice that that's the advice. It's, kind of like hunker down and learn and accept things. And then that, I believe, is the path to get into a good place. Not easy. It's definitely something that you can feel bad about, and take to heart and understand what's happening. It's very serious, but I believe there's light on the other side, and you really have to take it seriously and treat it like it's the most important thing you have going on, because it is.
Yeah, I remember when I had my major depression, I had 3 kids. They were young, and it kind of steals the feeling of love away from you. Like, I loved them to death, but I wasn't feeling it the same way when I was in this depression. So the very thing you need to help yourself to get out of it, it takes away. So it's very, very tricky.
Yeah. You just made me think of another thing about scheduling time. So if you have an open calendar, or you just have a few things on your calendar, and the process has been, okay, maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. That's very difficult. One of the things I learned from my doctors is you put something on a schedule, and no matter how you're feeling, you do it. If the schedule says I'm not doing anything today for 12 hours, then that's fine. And that's what the schedule says. But that was a big kind of like aha moment for me. It was like, oh, I don't really feel like working out today, but it's on the schedule. So if it's on there, I should be doing it. Not easy, but yeah. And depression will take those emotions and things out from you. And, again, what helped me was I feel like shit. Nothing feels like anything. I'm depressed. But I have this calendar that I have, whatever's on the calendar I'm doing. And that was kind of like the end. That was the rule that I set for myself. And that really helped me kind of crawl out of those feelings that I was having.
What would you say to someone that doesn't know what to do? I mean, how do they get a psychiatrist? How do they get, to a point where they can help themselves?
Yeah. So I first want to say that is precisely what I'm writing about now. So it's literally like you've been told you have bipolar disorder, and the book is written in the exact same style as the first one. And it's going to hopefully try to get someone from that point to where I am now, where things feel like they're manageable and things are good. So just generally, I think the attitude is huge, and it's hard because bipolar takes your sense of reality. It takes what you believe to be true, and it messes with all that. So to say you have to have a positive attitude, or you have to believe that you can do what you're supposed to do and accept that you have this chronic illness now, is very hard because you can't just make that decision and snap your fingers. But I'd say I'd say know that there is support around you. Know that there's a lot of people that have what you have. I know it's a small percentage, but in America, that small percentage is still millions and millions of people. There are so many resources online, and really just, you have to look at yourself. It challenges you to go as deep as you've ever gone when thinking about yourself and your life. And you have to, when you're ready, you have to kind of decide, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to live a normal life, or I'm going to accept that this is what I have and I'm going to change my life and let it be the main thing in my life. So for someone who's trying to live a normal, healthy life, do what you're told by the doctors, learn as much as you possibly can about it. It's okay if you feel a little bad for yourself. It's a pretty serious thing that happens. So don't get even more down that you don't feel well about it. Just off the top of my head too, I'd say understand that medication takes time to get right. Side effects go away over time. They become easier. And, you really just have to trust the people around you that are helping. And it's very serious. It's like a full-time job. You've just been given a full-time job, and you have to do all of this, and you also have to live the rest of your life. So I think the advice that that's the advice. It's, kind of like hunker down and learn and accept things. And then that, I believe, is the path to get into a good place. Not easy. It's definitely something that you can feel bad about, and take to heart and understand what's happening. It's very serious, but I believe there's light on the other side, and you really have to take it seriously and treat it like it's the most important thing you have going on, because it is.
If there is somebody that thinks they might have bipolar 1 and is not sure, what are some of the symptoms that come up beforehand? Is there a warning of any type?
That's a really good question. For me, I'm completely unaware. So I'm going to be living my life, and things are going to start to happen that seem special, and then I'm going to be ramped up and have an episode. The things that can put me in that place where I am aware, like, okay, I have bipolar, and so I need to be aware of some of these things. Any drugs and alcohol. So I don't even drink caffeine. I'm completely off drugs, alcohol, caffeine, energy drinks. Like, I cut all that out after my last episode. But if I'm in the past, if I'm smoking marijuana, I'm probably going to have an episode. It's that sensitive for me. But being isolated, stress. The last episode, I was a casual drinker, maybe once on the weekend, a couple drinks, and I had an episode. I wasn't doing there was nothing else in that picture except for stress from my job, isolation, and that was it. Lack of sleep. So those types of, if you're not sleeping well at night, doesn't mean you're bipolar 1, but that would be a symptom that you're stressed, isolated. Drugs and alcohol, those that, you're not working out, those are the types of things that if I kind of fall into that world of those types of symptoms or triggers or whatever, like I could actually I'm putting myself at a higher risk. Obviously too, if I stop taking my medicine for whatever reason, which I just would never do that, but that would 100% put me back into an episode.
The following are clips of the second interview with Brett after I read the book Crossover.
When you went through the manic episodes, they would last, for a couple of days or just?
Yeah, a couple of days, come on really strong, and then, as you probably read, just end up in the hospital, and that's when the recovery starts. Yeah.
So once you come back to reality, there's a period of depression, anxiety. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I think everyone's experience is going to be different. What happened in my experiences were I would have these manic episodes, and as you read, you think God is talking to you. You think you're doing things that are so special, and you're so high on it, and every day and everything that happens is so interesting and exciting. So as you can imagine, when you come down from that, normal things do not seem fun at all. And then combine that with medication and, drugs that are trying to get your mood right, but also can be, painful or cause nausea, there's all that. And then I think there's also an additional layer of the things you lost. I mean, the first month or two, I'm still hallucinating. I don't know if I really honed in on that on the book, but on the next one, I'm trying to really focus in on, I'm very manic still, even after coming home and after the hospital, and I'm just a little bit more confused. That's for about a month or two. And then there's really just, I'd say there's another 6 months of just like feeling very down, lack of confidence. My whole world was just completely different. So my senses are off. I'm vulnerable, I'm shy. I'm just a different person altogether for about 6 months, I'd say. And then I slowly do one thing, or I try a chess club, or I, realize that there's different parts of life that you can focus on and still gain a lot of value from. And, I think the biggest realization was my life wasn't so perfect before I had my episodes. So in my mind, everything was great. I was doing all these awesome things, but the more you reflect on it, there's good and bad regardless of really what's going on. So I'd say the first, 8 months total is very challenging, but then it takes me 18 months to fully feel better back out there, could go get a job, can live on my own. And I've just seen that same pattern with all three of my episodes. So for me, that's kind of what I could expect when I recover. I was in this pizza place. Okay. I was very angry. I was getting messages from God is what I experienced. That's what the experience was. And he was saying, you're a man, don't listen to anybody. Like all these people they're trying to harm you. Very just scary. And he kind of pumped me up enough to get me to turn around, stand up on the stool that I was sitting in. And I just yelled. I yelled at the whole place, and it was quiet, and it felt good. When everyone stopped talking, I was it was this relief. And then I just this guy tried to settle me down, and I just pushed him, and then everyone got really scared. And, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to carry a firearm in Texas. So thankfully, no one got that scared. I got out of there, and I just was like, okay, that was fun. What's next? There was no emotional reaction or reflection on what just happened. I just moved on to the next thing. Marijuana was the only, I guess you could say, drug that I think the anxiety was probably worse, because I think I've always wanted to do well and be out there and have a cool confidence when I'm doing things. And to just have that stripped, it makes you very nervous because you feel like a different person. And it's really no matter what you're doing now, you have this intense, distracting feeling. I think in the second book, I call it a hell-like buzz. It's just in there. Mm-hmm. And, you just have to deal with it and learn the tools and the medicine that can help. But I will say, I tend to avoid things that I'm feeling anxious about. And one thing I've learned is if you don't avoid it, the anxiety will go down every time you don't avoid something.
Doctors finally put you on lithium, Lamictal, and what were the other things that you did to help yourself?
So fish oil is an over-the-counter, and acetylcysteine is over-the-counter. And then there's also Synthroid, which helps with the side effects of lithium.
My next guest was also a repeating guest. Gigi Langer is pretty well known for her book 50 Ways to Worry Less and initially agreed to tell OTR the top 5 and later 6 through 10. She also appeared in the Only Video YouTube episode back in June of 2022. We have been releasing all the audio episodes as YouTube episode audio only. Visit our channel for the last 40 or so episodes with the link in the description of this episode. So here are some clips of that first show.
Over about 30 years, I have thought out different ways to help my own worry mode, shall I call it, my what I call the whispered lies that go on in my head that are trying to tell me negative things about myself and other people. And so over the years, I've sought out different tools. And the reason I wrote the book was because I thought, well, what if people who struggle with worry and who may not be in recovery or even are in recovery or are pondering it, I thought, what if I could write and share all these tools I've learned that we can change our outlook from a negative, hypersensitive, oh my God, living in the wreckage of our future, regretting our past. We can change that through a variety of tools. It takes consistent practice and work and sometimes therapy. But we can change how we think. We can change those negative neural pathways in the brain. We can bring to bear spiritual tools if that appeals to us. Energy work like tapping or EMDR. We can change how we think about things and how we see the world from a negative to a more positive.
If you were to tell, like you say, 50 ways, could you say what the top 5 might be?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Well, and let me put one of the, I would say number 1 would be meditation, but not in the way that we might misconstrue it. I really like guided meditations because that keeps my mind focused on the speaker who is leading me along a path that's, I might stray, but that voice is there to bring me back and remind me to come back. So even if it's a 10-minute or a 20-minute, so of course we have now these wonderful apps on our phones. My favorite is Insight Timer, INSIGHT, Timer. And it's very cool. You can pick a 10-minute one or 5-minute one. You can pick any topic. So if there's a day that I'm feeling so focused on pain in my body, I can choose a meditation that applies to that. And then, usually I lie down. The other thing is you don't have to sit in the lotus position, Yeah. So these rules that people have put on, really, the whole point is to kind of let go of the rules and the judging and the controlling and just allow ourselves to focus on one thing, which is a huge relief for our brain. And I did take an 8-week course just because I'm like you. I have a very overactive mind. I'm a highly sensitive person. I have struggled with anxiety. And there's a course that's science-based in it was developed at University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And the guy's name is pretty well known, Jon Kabat, Kabat, Zinn, Zinn. And it's called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And it's an 8-week course. It's offered all over the world because they've been training trainers forever. And because it's centered in a medical center, they've gathered huge amounts of data on it. and it's very, very impressive in terms of trauma, stress, depression, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be my number one. Not that you have to go to a training like mindfulness-based stress reduction, but I did because I knew I needed training. You know,
the choices that people make is there's this big stigma that you can't try to do other things rather than drinking and, you know, that quick fix. A lot of people don't.
Right.
People don't want to admit they have the problem. They're ashamed. And
that's why I started with honesty, you know, and then I don't have to figure this out on my own. There's a power sometimes through people, in other ways I can find that power. Then I have to choose. There's got to be a different way. I want to be a happy person. I'm willing to do the work to get there, as hard as that might be. I am not stuck, you know, feeling as awful about myself as I do right now. Strategies that dissolve my negativity and bring in more positive, loving thoughts. Mm-hmm. So the image I have for that is that there's this, I have it as a female image, but you know that there's a prayer called "Make Me a Channel of Your Peace."
I haven't heard that.
So if you imagine this woman with this light trying to come in through, you know, some people think it comes in through the crown chakra. I don't know what I know about that, but I know there is a power and a light and a goodness that is already in us and is trying to get into us to dissolve whatever is blocking that, our essential light from shining, our true self. So these practices dissolve the blockages. If you see the person like the before picture, the heart and all the light places are all blocked up with these rocks of self-hatred and judgment and blame and and that's what's driving the bus. And the practices that we use dissolve little by little those blockages and allow us, and that's why I called the book that you find peace. We find peace of mind no matter what's going on because we're living from our true self. We find clarity. What is it I'm supposed to be here for? What am I, you know, what's the best way to do things in this? And then connection. We find connection with other people like you and I are. Yeah. So those are the benefits of getting clear and living from our true self. But it takes work to dissolve all those whispered lies and the blockages and all of that.
If somebody asked me, what do you want to get rid of? I would say ADHD. Because it causes, I can't really relate to other people that well. I have a tendency to interrupt them and you know, not listen unless my brain thinks it's important. It's almost like my brain is kind of like on automatic pilot, and it gets me in a lot of trouble. And I have a fear. I really do have a fear of talking to people, believe it or not. I have this fear that was developed as a child when both my brothers were superstars. Literally, my one brother was a high school star. They won the state championship, and the other brother was a genius who got a 50-90 on a 1600. And here I'm sitting with ADD. I could barely talk. And when I sat at the table, I was like not there. So it did. That was the trauma part of my problem. But if I could think better, I guess you could say, and I know it's from the ADHD because I've done so much research on it. I think I could get along with people a lot better, but and you know, I do have negative qualities, but it just, this problem, this barrier, even if I go to a store and I'm just like overwhelmed with the supermarket. Like I can't focus.
Yes. So I first had to embrace the fact that 1 out of 5 people is a highly sensitive person. I'm one of them. And the research actually says that in a lot of societies, 1 out of 5 people are like this. And the people who, like you and I, are learning to harness and tame and mold into a force for goodness our own sensitivity, those people become the sages and the advisors in those cultures. So being a highly sensitive person is a gift, and yet because of our culture and so on, I can feel like a outcast so easily. So first it's like, oh, there is a good thing about this.
That's funny that you said outcast. I've always been pushing. He's believe it or not, he's a rapper, but everything he raps about or says has to do with mental illness and how he's feeling, and he puts it in such elegant words. And one of his songs is Outcast. He goes, well, I'll just be an outcast. He's he's accepting it. He's saying, yeah, okay, I'll be the outcast. I have no problem with that.
I don't know if I can say this for sure, but I would say a high majority of people who end up with various kinds of addictions, whether it's a sex addiction, spending, gambling, alcohol, drugs, whatever, overwork, I'd say a large proportion are highly sensitive people who suffer from anxiety and have been self-medicating. And we all probably need medication to some extent, at least for a while, and therapy and a group in which to grow using these kinds of steps. Yes. I got to get honest about it. I got to own it. There's a power bigger than me that can help me use this as a strength. I just need to learn how to manage myself like I would a tender child who's very sensitive.
Right. And that's the road less traveled that, people don't go on. When they come to the fork, they say, there's nothing wrong with me. Let me just have a couple drinks. Or
you're right.
And that's
right.
the
That's
message
a very,
I'm trying to get out.
And there's nothing we can do about that directly to change an individual. However, putting out like what we're doing here, that there is another possibility. We've done it. You've done it. I've done it. We know hundreds and thousands of people who have managed to put together a very happy, content life with occasional bumps like all lives, but the ability to handle them, whether it's ugly or not. We've figured out how to live in this world without numbing ourselves and to be pretty darn happy given how our makeup is. And I don't know that I buy this 100%, but it's kind of a logical thing. When you came down to be here on Earth, you knew that you needed to grow as a soul a certain way, and that your physical makeup and genetic makeup, and now, even though you've overcome so much, this job is the next kind of, I would call it a spiritual frontier for growth. And it's absolutely in perfect order. It's meant to be. It's the next layer. And when I encounter a next layer, and I do talk about this a lot in Chapter 5, I kick and scream and resist and hate it and complain. And it's just like that person standing at the fork in the road, isn't it, Bob? That we know it's awful, but we're not quite ready. And actually, we don't know exactly what to do, except the one thing we do know is to take that first step on the opposite path, which really is the step of surrender. It's the step saying, if I keep stepping in the direction I am with all my negativity and self-sabotage, blah, 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 I'm not going to get anywhere. Okay, let me just say, help me to make this different. Help me to see this differently. And I have a lot about A Course in Miracles in my book because I find that a very useful spiritual teaching. But what it says is when we reject the ego and all its lies and we move toward love, care, higher power, whatever, even if we don't know what's going to happen, we're just saying, look, help me, just like you and I did to beat addiction. Help help me with how I'm seeing this. And I have been known, I had horrible perfectionism at work. And I wrote out the first step on my work stress. You know, I'm powerless over this. It makes my life unmanageable in these ways. I've tried to change it, this and this. It hasn't worked. Number 2, I guess there's a power greater than me that's going to have to help me with this, you know, because I certainly feel insane. And the third step, right. And then I work it through with a sponsor or a therapist or whatever. And then I do as many tools as I can.
Bill McPhee suffered from schizophrenia in his younger years, and he tells the story of his journey home.
But yeah, so Bob, I was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1987, and I was 24 years old at the time, which makes me, I'm 57 now. And what I kind of do is I consider when I tell my story, I call it kind of life after mental illness, because I think that's the goal with anybody with any disorder, is that we want to have a life. We want to have quality of life. And today I do have that quality of life. I have 3 children, and I have a good life, and I think that's what's important. But it definitely always wasn't like that. I was definitely very, very ill. And for those who don't, just a few facts about schizophrenia. Basically, schizophrenia actually means split from reality, or in psychosis, or out of reality. And 1 out of 100 people actually have this illness, and it's very devastating. Usually it's with people between, say, 15 and 25. However, there's always exceptions to that. And the reason that schizophrenia is known as youth's greatest disabler, and that is the reason, is because usually it hits between 15 and 25, and it's very debilitating. And with schizophrenia, you have what's known as positive and negative symptoms. And positive symptoms are basically, you know, people think, oh, positive, that sounds good, that must be good. But actually it isn't. Basically what positive symptoms mean is that things are added to your personality that shouldn't be there when you have positive symptoms, such as hearing voices, being paranoid, being delusional, out of reality.
Do you have hallucinations?
Well, no, I did, and I'll get into that. But those are the kind of, you can have hallucinations with schizophrenia, and you can have illusions as well. And those things are known as positive symptoms. However, with schizophrenia as well, you have negative symptoms or deficit symptoms. And these are things that are kind of lacking from your personality. So you might have a lack of motivation, a lack of drive, a lack of joy. You have emotional bluntness. You have blandness. Depression can set in. You have lack of joy. So these things are missing, and so that they're known as deficit or negative symptoms. And with schizophrenia, everybody is different. Just like everybody's different, but you'll have a combination of those symptoms. And suicide is very common with schizophrenia. 50% of the people with schizophrenia will try to commit suicide, and 10% actually succeed, if you call that success. And in my case, yes, I was hospitalized 6 different times. I lived in 3 different group homes. I had a suicide attempt, and I spent 5 years on the couch dealing with the depression, a very deep depression. In my case, genetics played a role, because when I was, my mom, years ago, I mean, I told you I was 57 now, and I can remember being, 6, 7, 8 years old, and my mom was always in a hospital. She was back and forth, and my mom, way back then, was known as manic depressive, which today we call bipolar. So my mom was very manic depressive, and she was in a hospital back and forth. So as a little kid, I grew up with mental illness in the family, but I never dreamed that I would come down with a mental illness myself. I kind of thought it was a weakness, or somebody can just snap out of it, and that. And I got to tell you that that's a myth. I consider myself as a strong person, but I never, the fact that schizophrenia took its toll on me, and it was the hardest thing that I ever had to come out of and fight for a good quality of life, and it's a very distributed illness. So mental illness wasn't a stranger to me. So what happened to me, Bob, is that which was the stressor, is that when I was 24, I got a girl pregnant, and I didn't tell anybody that. I sort of suppressed it. I was kind of ashamed of that, and I didn't tell anybody, and I suppressed it, and time goes by. But then I was looking for forgiveness, and I started to dive into theology and looking for forgiveness, and I started to dive into the Bible. And some strange things started to happen where, for example, I would see words float off the page and have my Bible float off and expand and contract, and I'd see faces in the wall. At the time I had barnwood on my walls, and I'd turn into faces, and I wasn't sleeping properly. I would be waking up. I'd call off sick to work, not up for shifts, and different things like that. And what those were the signs of the beginning of positive symptoms. I began to get very paranoid, and my illness was very similar to I don't know if you ever saw the movie A Beautiful Mind, where Russell Crowe played in that movie. And remember when John Nash was in the Pentagon, and all these words and code letters on the board at the Pentagon were becoming bold, and they were floating off the wall, and he was seeing all this code and all that. That's exactly what was happening with me and everything like that. So I became...
Do you see other people as well, like in a people?
No, I didn't see other people. I did at one time hallucinate. I did have hallucinations, and I did hear voices, and that's very common. Hearing voices is very common with schizophrenia, and also being very paranoid is very... So what happened is that, to make a long story short, is that because I was very, very ill. I became ill within a period of 6 months. My symptoms came on very fast, and that's known as an acute onset of schizophrenia, where a lot of time there's a slow onset as well, where people, when they're young in their teenagers, they may go through certain, parents may think their kids are going through a certain phase, that they're experimenting with drugs, or they're not, and it's a slow onset. It's not really a drastic change from somebody, but my character within 6 months changed so drastically that a lot of people knew that there was definitely something wrong with me. And what ended up happening is, in the middle of winter, in a January cold month, it was the coldest night of the year, and I ended up walking down the street naked and everything like that, and being picked up by the police, and being put into the psych ward and things like that.
What age were you then?
What's that?
Sorry. What age were you then?
Yeah, so I was 24 at that time. Okay. So I was 24. And so I ended up being in hospital, and very delusional, very paranoid, and different things like that. And so I'd be in the hospital, and they'd give me medication. And so anyways, what happened is that eventually I got on a medication, and the TV wasn't talking to me anymore, and my paranoia went away, and I wasn't getting code off the radio anymore, and everything like that. And really what happened is that I was literally going from being insane or in psychosis or out of reality, whatever you want to call it. I was going out of being out of reality, coming back into reality. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, is that you think, I would have said that's great, Bill. You're back in reality. That's great. But my reality consisted of that I realized that after all this, that I had lost my house, I had lost my financial security, I had lost friends, I had lost my job, and I found out that I was just another one out of 100 people with this illness known as schizophrenia. So even though I got back into reality, my life kind of sucked. Reality sucked. And I went off my medication, and within 6 months, my psychosis came back. The illness tricks the mind, and it's so powerful that you don't know that you're sick. And I got sick again from being off of medication. And I took some business courses and some entrepreneur courses. And in March of 1994, I incorporated my company called Magpie Media, Inc. And for the next 23 years, I published a magazine called SZ Magazine, a mental health magazine. And I did that for 23 years, and I spoke right across North America at many conferences and everything like that. So then just recently, I've been retired since 2016, but I wrote a book. My book is called To Cry a Dry Tear, Bill McPhee's Journey of Hope and Recovery with Schizophrenia. And so as a hobby, that's my hobby. I sell my book that I wrote.
That's Bill McPhee and his story that shows even mental issues like schizophrenia can be tamed. Next is an interview that I recorded with my son Brian called Dyslexia Fighting Back. This is still my favorite interview.
Do you have anything else you want to tell everybody about dyslexia?
Yeah, I think that a person has two ways that they can operate out of something that they've been given. They can sit there and they can use it as something that's going to cause them to stop being who they are, or they can figure out a way to push forward and become better. And so I think it comes down to the person and what their mindset is. Disabilities are looked at in a lot of different ways. Some people will use them and say, I can't do anything. And some people will use them and make themselves better. And so I decided to go with the one that was going to make myself better. And so I wound up graduating college at the top of my list. I had a 3.9 GPA, and so I pushed myself forward. And so I don't know. I just think you have to find a way to push through it, or you can take it and let it destroy you. It's up to you.
The next episode is a very enlightening discussion with Aaron Fisher. We discuss some heavy topics, which include a discussion about loneliness, dyslexia, ADHD, and other mental issues. Aaron puts a very positive spin on all these subjects. This was recorded in the middle of the COVID virus outbreak, which isolated people and made them deal with loneliness. The recording of my voice in the next segment was very poor, so I will voice over the questions I asked. This episode is called You Are Not Alone. The first question is, how is your mental health? Do you feel pretty happy on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say myself personally, I feel, I would say the last couple of days I've been feeling like a good 9. But I'm also very aware of my mental health in the sense that, like, the idea of me, it's like there's the terminology of bipolar, but I would consider myself to be more rainbow polar in the sense that I feel all my emotions. It's a spectrum of different colors, different emotions that I'm constantly feeling that, but I allow the emotions to come as they do without saying that I am this, I am that, more as if letting the emotion come, being the teacher, learning from it, understanding it, but not making it who I am. So, there are some days where I'll feel depressed, but I'm not like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm depressed. I'm like, oh, depression is here. Let's learn from depression. How can we use this today? So I'm very, very aware of my feelings. I'm very, very aware of my emotions. And I'm very, very aware that they're not who I am. I am the choice that I have from those emotions and what I choose to learn from.
One of the things that we talked about before the show was you expressed interest in the topic of loneliness. Now for me, I live alone. So what is your situation and what do you mean by when you think of loneliness?
So that's a really good question. And there's so many different parts to loneliness. For example, there's, my situation is I am in a relationship. We've been in a relationship for over 2 years. But just because I'm in a relationship does not mean I don't feel lonely for times. And it doesn't mean that she doesn't feel lonely at times as well. Though we still try to listen and hear each other, loneliness is something that happens when we start to question our worth, who we are we enough? Is there somebody for us? And it's starting to question a lot of the values that we actually have in society and values that we have within us as a human. So, for example, even recently, my partner, because of this quarantine, I can't see her. She feels extremely lonely. And then she starts questioning the relationship and who we are. Is this going to work? And I know it's nothing about me. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to just put a name on what it is to rationalize it. But sometimes the best thing about loneliness is to accept that, 1, I do feel lonely. 2, what is my definition of loneliness? 3, what are the feelings that are coming out from this loneliness? And 4, what is it that I want in this situation? Because if you don't name it, you can't tame it. In the sense that if you don't really understand what it is that's giving you loneliness and breaking it down, it will take its time to break you down and make you feel like, oh, I'm lonely because of X, Y, and Z, where that can actually be the furthest from the truth. So I believe that there's somebody out there for other people. And loneliness, you could even feel lonely in a group because it's most people, I know myself growing up, I tried so hard to fit in, and fitting in took out so much energy from me. And at the end of the day, I just felt depleted versus when I became an adult, I just try to find people that I belong to, where I feel like I belong to. I feel like there's a family, there's a sense of purpose where I feel recharged out of it. They said, all right, Aaron, get up and read. And I'm like, okay. And I would look at the book and I would read, and my teacher and all the classmates would laugh at me because they're like, my teacher's like, stop trying to be a class clown. Stop messing around. And I'm like, I don't understand what anybody's saying. And all my classmates are laughing. So I'm like, and I'm laughing. I'm like, what's going on? I would look at a page and the words were not, they were different. My mind would create additional words that weren't there and it would change sentences. I had no idea growing up that I actually had dyslexia. So I can definitely resonate and I can feel what you're saying. I actually thought that this, I didn't understand it, or nor could I grasp it. So if all the teachers are calling me stupid and all the kids are laughing at me, then, by default, I must be a class clown. So then I started to portray the idea of, oh, that I'm the class clown. And then I created this image, an illusion of me. And I felt so drained at the end of the day where I'm like, but everybody thinks I'm this way, but I'm really not. It's like, but what happens to, so when you speak about dyslexia and you speak about these things, I fully resonate with it. And it's something that I had no idea I had only until I went to college. And my teacher, I wrote a report and she looked at it and she goes, Aaron, you have dyslexia. And I'm like, I don't understand. What is that? Because I had no idea what it was. And she's like, you know what? She's like, you've gone this far in life with it. She goes, it doesn't matter. She goes, just know that you have a gift and you're doing something well. And I'm like, okay. And then I went online and I researched, and it's just like, all these other great individuals in life have had dyslexia. So I started to see it as we are blessed with the gift to look at things in a way that other people can't, which allows us to do things that other people can't as well. Sounds good. I really appreciate your time and effort. And before I go, just for everybody listening, just please understand that no matter what, that you're not alone, and that there's so many people out there. There's so many channels. There's so many things that you can do to get in hold of other individuals, and know that what you're going through, I promise you, so many other people are going through. And now is the time with social media that you can find this, because there is so much positive on there. So please understand that we're here for you. You're not alone, and things will get worse sometimes before they get better, but I promise they will get better.
This episode was simply called Angela. It's a very special episode about a young woman with a debilitated condition called Mobius syndrome. This was one of the popular episodes on Apple for months. You can understand her better if you listen a few times.
Tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. We always hear people tell their stories, but in this case, it'll be difficult to understand, and you might have to go through it more than once. But I think it's important to put out there. I was put in contact with a young lady, 29 years old, named Angela, and she has Mobius syndrome. It's Moebius syndrome. And it affects speech, the face, and in Angela's case, the limbs. She is wheelchair bound. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Angela Cristodoro. And yes. How are you, Angela?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Doing good today. Could you tell us your story?
Well, I have a physical disability. I am in a wheelchair. I've been in a wheelchair my whole life. I have a rare disability that affects my nerves. When I was younger, my parents split up, so...
Like your parents, yeah.
Yeah, so...
How old were you?
I was 13.
Okay. So do you have a certain ailment? Is there a name for it?
Mobius syndrome. You can look it up if you want.
So, have you been in a wheelchair all your life?
Yes.
Okay. And have you not been able to speak? Has your speech gotten worse, better, or the same?
My speech stays the same. I had nurses my whole life.
Oh, nurses. Did you go to school when you grew up?
Yeah, they took me to school. Yeah. When I finished grade 6, I went to a school for people with disabilities.
Okay, school of disabilities, you say? Okay. All right. Can I ask how old you are?
Right now, I'm 29.
Oh, that's young. That's good. So, can you move your arms well?
Yeah, I can move my arms and legs. My right arm is stronger than my left. No, my disability is like having a stroke.
It's like having a stroke. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're pretty intelligent.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you use the computer?
Yes.
Okay, so you're able to do everything on the computer, right? With the mouse and everything?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, are you at home most of the time?
About a year and a half ago, I moved into an apartment with my PCI.
So you're in an apartment with a nurse?
With my caregiver. I want my mask to stand out.
Oh, you want the mask? What are you going to do with the mask? You going to make them a different color or something?
I still am thinking. I still am brainstorming.
No, you're still brainstorming. You don't know exactly what the mask is going to look like, but it's going to be. Yeah. It's going to be the coolest mask, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Okay. So you just have to learn how to sew, and you'll be able to make a mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be great. People need.
Do you know how to sew?
Me? No, I can't sew a stitch. The only thing I ever did was clip on my buttons on my shirt. They had this little tool, and it was plastic that came out and clipped your button on. That's the closest I've gotten to sewing. So you do sew a little, or you're just going to learn?
Yeah, I'm going to learn.
Are you going to learn? Okay.
Before this virus, I thought a sewing is so boring.
Before the mask, you didn't want to sew, but then after the mask, after the virus, you thought it was important to sew, so you can make a mask.
Yeah, because.
All right, that's
good. Yeah,
good.
because I love to help people.
That's good that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Anything else that you're gonna do?
Every day I want to do something new, so I don't know.
Oh, everything.
My mind keeps changing.
Oh yeah. Every day you try to do something new, like
yeah.
Do you do anything outside?
I used to go horseback riding.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That was hard? So you like horses then?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything to the audience, or?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, and hopefully I can come back with more interesting stories.
That was Angela Cristodoro, who did a terrific job on the interview.